Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
What is happening, Rush Nation? We are back. It's not me on my own. Stocks still having some life challenges, as I'm going to put it as that. But that's fine. I thought you guys can't endure another episode of just me. So we got a lot of positive chat. We did this show 51 weeks ago with my guest about the coaching schemes, the changes of coaches. And we're like, we don't get this stuff anywhere. So I'm bringing him back. One of my absolute favorite guys. Like I absorb his content at great speed. You know, we're talking about former SFWA Football Writer of the Year finalist. He is all over the place on Rotowire, on SiriusXM, former Kings Classic champ as well. It's my great guy, Jim Coventry. Welcome back, my man. How the devil are you?
So excited to be here. It's always football season, Murph.
Always football season. Never, ever, ever, ever take a week off, because that's where they'll get you.
100% on that.
Good, man. Look, it's been almost a year since you've been on. So tell everyone what you've been up to. What has been cooking?
So Rotowire is really moving forward with a lot of things. We have really gone deeper and deeper into video, and we've been doing it for a while, but really it's off the charts now. So I am doing 10-minute horizontal videos, a few of them every week, vertical videos almost every day are coming out. So plenty of that. It's been a great move. Obviously, articles, the audience has changed now. It's like phones. So articles are shorter. We write them a lot shorter. So have to learn how to adjust. I'm a dinosaur, but you know what? I want to change. I want to make sure we give the audience what they want. So it's been great. So in terms of work, just beautiful. And the XM show, that'll start up for me in less than a month. I think July 12th, the weekend shows pick back up, and we take away the baseball shows that Rotowire has, and we flip to NFL.
Which is what we want. And unfortunately, as much as I've been banging XM for, it must be 7 years. Get it going international. There is a huge audience here that would dial in. I've been introduced to people at Sirius. I'm like, get it going over here.
Yes.
You're getting the games over here. The content wants to be absorbed over here. Radio's crap here. It is notorious. I haven't listened to the radio in about 10 years because it's just crap. So it's digital. It's digital radio. Why can't I get it? It's stupid location issues. Something to do with privacy laws is what I was told, which is just a load of cockahoodles. So we need to sort that. Yes. So have a word with you guys. Say, look, there's a huge audience in Europe, in the UK especially, that are desperate to get it over. So get it sorted, and that would be amazing. And then we can all tune in and enjoy, rather than having to put down a fake address and pretend that we live abroad and have to do some nefarious things that we shouldn't talk about on air.
VPN.
VPN. Exactly that. Now, I know a couple of weeks ago, someone you have done some content with, and someone who I'm not going to sit here and claim I knew him well, but someone who I did get to know when we were starting podcasts. We used to share each other's content, and this would go back about 9 years in sort of that early era of people who were just sort of popping up and doing content and podcasts. Anthony Ceino, he tragically passed away at the age of, I think it was 41. Through potentially a heart attack. I know they're still investigating, which was just heartbreaking news. And someone you knew, you did I watched this, a beautiful tribute on Rotowire. Tell everyone who is familiar, who might not be familiar about Anthony, and just what a great guy he was, because he was a real grinder, and he did a lot of work in the community, and especially the Haydenhurst Podathon that he did for mental health awareness and things like that. Like, he brought a lot of people together. So I know you knew him fairly well. I won't take this opportunity just to share a little bit about him, and then how you're doing with the news as well.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And what I'll say is this: Anthony was among the group of pioneers through Twitter. When you were streaming, like, we're on StreamYard now, and that's like common. even my old 60-year-old self could get on StreamYard and do this. Anthony understood the OBS, where he had to put together his own thing and stream out his own show without having all these packaged tools. So Anthony was always ahead of the curve, and he had the FFA show with Michael Half at the time they started that out, and I got to know Anthony there. So I would make, it was like a whole off season where I did a weekly show co-hosting with him, but then so at Rotowire ticked up, so I didn't work with him as much, and I kind of lost touch. But about 3 years ago, Anthony got hired by Rotowire, where I work, as an SEO specialist. And once I realized that I believed Anthony was elite football content, elite football personality. So I asked the company, I go, look, he works SEO, but I want him on my podcast. So Anthony came on my podcast. Then we're doing videos. Anthony wanted to be doing video with me. We started doing a daily show in May, just 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago. We started doing a daily show every day. And 2 weeks ago, I think it was at this point, I'm in Hawaii with my family, taking a vacation. And every day is 5-hour difference. I wake up and I look for the tweet of the show. I'm going to retweet it out for Anthony. I want to give him all the viewers he can get. Third day, there's no show. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then I look and I see, I have a voice message. I have a text. I have a Twitter message. And I'm like, oh, man, it's Michael Half. He says, it's urgent. Call me. And he told me, Anthony just flat out died immediately, like at his desk. And Anthony and I, we had the last 2 years, we talked almost every day. We were becoming like brothers. We had long-term plans that we were going to be working together with Rotowire. We were hoping to, continue to help rise Rotowire even further. And then just like that, blink of an eye, Anthony's not here. And numb. I'm still numb. I'm still weird in a daily show. And now I'm going solo again because Anthony's not in the chair next to me.
Yeah, it's completely tragic. And I saw Michael again, similar time. I'm not going to sit here and say I know him well. I do play in the King's Classic with him, and we've had conversations and chats, but it's not someone I know brilliantly well. But I dropped him a message and said, like, thoughts are with you. Like, don't reply. Like, you've got about 500 people you got to go to, but it's truly heartbreaking. And those two really were like brothers, and they did some amazing things. Like again, the mental health podathon they did. They did a lot of amazing things. Got Hayden Hurst involved in his foundation, and they really were pioneers. And I wanted to take a moment because you were someone who knew him well, that give him a moment just to, I guess not to say thanks, really. Thanks for all the content, and thanks for all the energy and everything he brought to, I don't want to say the industry, but the group of people that put content together, because he inspired a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that are in the content space because of him, because they watched him grind and they watched him put it all together and carve a career out of it. And, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be doing content now if it wasn't for the guys like Anthony who were trailblazing. So I guess really more of a thanks to him and a nod to him, and from someone who knows him so well, I wanted to do that here because I just think it's more appropriate with you here than me who really didn't know him all that well, but was aware of the work. So and definitely, share out the links. We'll share out the links. And just, if you're not familiar with his work, go and look at some of the videos and the content that he put out, because some of it holds true now. And some of the strategy stuff he did and the deep dives into players, like, you'll learn a lot about process and how to just get better from watching the stuff that he did. So, definitely, like, his content lives on. Go and absorb it. And I know that will make his family and everyone really happy to see that. Taking a bit of a pivot here, we talked last time. We took the lessons from 2023, we put them towards 2024. I thought, let's do the same again. We're now we want to take a little bit of that backwards lens. We want to look at what happened in 2023, and some of the pieces that we put together to take those lessons and then focus on these coaching changes and how we can apply some of these lessons and some of the things that we have really got to zero in and focus on if we want that edge in 2025. So I definitely think number one, and this is what sort of prompted this, was the OC changes. So there were some QBs that really shone. Maker Mayfield was probably one that stands out. And, it wasn't a surprise to me because I saw how bad the offense was previously. I was completely surprised that Dave Canella's got a head coaching job. Like, I didn't get what the Panthers or the Carolina Panthers or anyone saw in his offense, because it was very basic. It was very much like a stripped down offense with no real complexity to it at all. And I was like, what? Like, do you just want to hire a guy who, he's a nice guy, he's a great presentable, talks a good game, but he's about doing the basics very, very well. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I don't think you can win a Super Bowl winning that, but you can probably win 5-6 games a season. And if that's where and maybe it's because that organization is so broken that maybe just having someone in as that stepping stone might be the right play. Like, I don't know, but I don't think he was the QB whisperer that kind of everyone was proclaiming him to be. I knew there was going to be an uptick in Liam Cohen. We saw that. But then also Cliff Kingsbury came in and did some incredible things with Washington, which I think even fewer people saw that one coming. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it coming. So I think it's important to dive into that. Anything you want to catch in here about these changes and why they're so important, why we're going to focus on them?
So we'll have a theme here. A lot of the newer coaches this year don't have what I call relevant coaching experience. A lot of them were position coaches. And the big deal in the NFL is once you roll out an offense or continue an offense from a former coach, the defenses are at the first half of the first game, they are making adjustments. And that's why we often have a drop off when we have a disciple of a former coach take over, because it's sequencing of plays. It's using motion at the right time. It's optimizing specific players. And the coach that takes over often doesn't have that level of ability. And it may never come. It may take years to come, but there is no experience like calling the plays and structuring the offense. So we're going to have a theme. A lot of these coaches, a good number of them, they're going to sound like, offense is going to stay the same. And when we talk about these, you're going to see, maybe don't be so optimistic on that.
Yeah, my favorite example of this, right, of anyone that who questions this at all, I want you to go and look at the 2002 Oakland Raiders, because John Gruden got traded for 3 draft picks to Tampa. The Oakland Raiders became the 1 seed, and you would say that Bill Callahan did an amazing job, that he got them all the way to the Super Bowl. With a John Gruden offense, they changed very little. They executed. Now, I don't doubt that he brought a culture and a precision to the way that they executed plays. But when they got to the Super Bowl and they faced their old coach who knew the playbook, not just the playbook, they didn't change the calls.
No, the terminology was the same.
Which is why the Buccaneers ran back 4 touchdowns. If you want to see why this stuff is important, that whole sequence of events is why it's important. Because if you don't change all that much, the NFL's on to you. They will get you, and you might get away with it for 3 months, 4 months. You might even steal an entire season, but they are going to get you. There is too much now. There's too much tape, too much analysis, and there's too many great thinkers in the league. There, back in 2002, there was 5-6 sort of original minds that you would argue, and the rest came from coaching philosophies. Now there's a lot more. So, you're not going to get away with this. So when you get these holdovers, if they're going to try and hold over the same offense, we saw this with the Philadelphia Eagles. They changed offensive coordinator because Nick Sirianni left. Shane Steichen left. Right. And they tried to run the same play in the same book. And guess what? They got mauled because they got caught up. And that's why they had to bring Kellen Moore in. And then he changed things. And then they obviously won a Super Bowl. He's been hired. So it's going to see what happens with Kevin Patillo. But they have to have learned that lesson that they cannot run the Kellen Moore offense because they're going to get caught. But we'll get to that. I think that's an important one. I put here running back, and I put in here the bounce back of the older RBs ? Because there was definitely some performances from those running backs that have been in the league a few years. Those veterans started to rise. Obviously, Saquon had a phenomenal season, but Derrick Henry yet again had a great season. Alvin Kamara people sitting there thinking the wheels are going to come off. He had a great season. All of these guys, and everyone was kind of thinking, Father Time's going to catch up with them. It's going to run out. Don't draft a running back over 28. It bit you. So do we need to? And I've looked at the ADP this year, and other than Saquon, who people have gone, well, Saquon's a 1 or 2. People are looking at these older RBs and they still want to fade. That dynasty mindset of he's over 28. Derrick Henry's a discount. Alvin Kamara is going at RB 20. Brian Robinson Jr. is going, and he's not that old, but
30.
He's going at RB 30, 31.
Yeah.
Like he's cheap. Like, and looking at these guys, and I'm thinking, like, do we go and take these guys? Like, what is your take on that?
So I think what you're seeing in the fantasy community is anomaly is the word that comes to mind. It's like, okay, this is a year where the older running backs hit. The injury bug didn't hit. Kyron Williams didn't get hurt. James Conner made it to like 16 weeks till he got hurt.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones hardly got hurt. And so everybody's thinking anomaly. And I think what you're seeing is in drafts, as the closer we get to August, I think that mindset is old running backs don't bet on them. But I'm dropping an article on Rotowire in July. I'm waiting till July till some of the casual audience comes in. But I believe I dug up a lot of good stuff. And I'll share this with your audience. So first of all, we want to know why running backs didn't get hurt. And we want to know why running backs are producing as they get older. I came up from watching games and then studying deeper. Here's what I found. First of all, we have more defenses with a base of 2 linebackers on the field than ever. You see it on most downs. There used to be 3 and 4 linebackers on the field. Who are the biggest hitters against the run? The linebackers. Now you only have 2 on the field. And if you have 4 down linemen, maybe 3, and 2 linebackers. First of all, you got 5 offensive linemen and a tight end. You can get a hat on everybody. You don't have a free runner anymore taking kill shots at your running back. So the durability is going to go up. Here's the other thing, though. Over the course of the last 30 years, every year, every set of years, the linebackers get lighter and lighter and lighter because the defense of the NFL is all about stopping the passing game. You want smaller, faster defenders. So you have 2 linebackers and they're smaller than ever. So now, not only the running backs are not taking free shots, but they're not taking the powerful shots of the old Ray Lewis's of the world, the guided missiles. They're not out there anymore. And also with those 2 linebackers, we're seeing more defensive backs way back down the field. So I think that you're going to have sprained ankles. That's going to happen. You're going to have the occasional twisted knee. But I think that you're not going to see these running backs wearing down at by age 30 because they are just not taking the abuse. We saw it with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, the rules started to protect them, and all of a sudden quarterbacks are playing forever. Well, running backs, they're going to see an extension of their careers because it's not the same tread on the tires that they've had for the last 30 years.
You're so right. And so what's great here is that you've given me the context to a bunch of numbers I have that I didn't have. I didn't have the context to this. So I wrote in the Fantasy Football Playbook a whole piece on the decline of the elite running back, but is it starting to come back again? And I did some data on the last sort of 12 years. So 2024 saw the highest number of rushing attempts for, and I'm just talking about the top 24 scoring running backs in fantasy football, right? So taking out injury and sort of, I'm looking at elite performance, right? So second highest amount in the last 12 years, bettered only by, second highest amount, bettered only by 2014, which was by 1 extra touch. By rushing attempt. It was the first time that the top 24 running backs averaged over 300 touches since 2019. They broke 14 touchdowns, which was the highest in the last 12 years. They hit nearly 1,600 scrimmage yards, which hasn't been done since 2019. These 2019 stats are flawed because you have the monster Christian McCaffrey year where he went absolutely kaboom, and he inflates the whole average by about 200 yards. So if you took him out, those numbers wouldn't be there. But they're in there. So we have to give the context. But if I took out that anomaly from that one player's season, it's the highest since 2014. It's the highest number of yards per touch since 2018. So a lot of this is making sense to what you're saying as to the why, because these numbers are all corresponding to there's two linebackers, there's more space. These guys aren't as big because they worried more about the sideline speed. And the performance is starting to get there. The one thing I would say, and the one thing that is kind of goes against this trend, is that elite performance was the one thing that was missing. You know, Saquon 355 points last year was well off what anyone has put up as a leading score in the last 10 years. In terms of the top scoring running back overall. So it seems to be that I don't know if we're ever going to get the 400-point season again because of the rotation. Right, but we're certainly going to get a lot of guys who are going to score that 350 to 250 range. It feels like more guys are going to get to that 250 fantasy score, and you're going to get guys to level up into that middle tier, which is going to raise the floor, but you might not ever get the ceiling performance again.
It's a puzzle because what the league is doing defensively, again, the two linebackers, the lighter players across the board, safeties are lighter, and they're daring you to run the ball. And so some offensive coaches are saying, okay, well, we'll run the ball more. But the counterpoint is that these offensive teams have invested so heavily in the passing game, they can't just abandon it. No. There are teams that could just go out and run all day and ignore the passing game, and they could be really successful against the defenses that are being thrown out there today. But with all the investments, you can't do that. And so it's almost like an economics problem. You can't have your highest paid players not getting the football, right? So, and you said the split backfields, and we've been seeing that for a while, but that could begin to fade a little bit. We could see more bell cow backs because as the league realizes everybody's lighter, not taking the kill shots, we can, get more production out of our A player on the field. But there's always going to be that, like I said, that pushback because the teams have to pass because that's what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're going to start seeing is it used to have 6 or so RBs that were kind of the elite. And then you'd have this scarcity problem of you're running to go and get the next tier because the drop-offs are so big. I think what we're going to start seeing in this next phase, and I think of phases as 3-year cycles, because I think at this point you have the early adopters, then everyone catches up, then you have the late adopters, and then the early adopters are on to the next thing because they're like, well, everyone's doing it, right? So I think of the NFL as these sort of 3-year cycles. And I think last year was more people have decided they need to run the football. Liam Cohen was a great example of that. There are many teams that really started to pivot towards the run more and had good success. I think you'll see more teams run the football next year. I think you will see you'll have scat backs and these sort of 1B backs be significantly fantasy relevant. Whether or not they're game changers and game winners is a debate, but they will be relevant, which means you're not going to have this scarcity problem. I think RB is deeper than it has been in the last decade. I look at the ADP. I'm looking at guys you can get at 30 thinking, RB 30, I'd put him in a lineup. I'd have no problem putting him in a lineup. I think so. Now you've got to think about your RB strategy, because if you worked on this scarcity model, I need 3 guys at the top because that's going to give me the edge. Now it's like you probably need 1 guy at the top, then you need the load in the right spaces. And there's a sweet spot for me, rounds 4 through 6, what used to be the old dead zone, now looks ripe for the picking. There are some phenomenal running backs in that range for me in current ADP where I think you can steal. So I think people need to rethink what they do at the RB position, whether you are one of those that used to hoard early or one of those that used to be zero RB. I think you need to have an entire rethink of what you do at the position, because what you've done over years is not going to fly. It is changed, and you've got to adopt the right strategy going forward.
The poster child that comes to mind is this iteration of Derrick Henry, because lighter defenses. And then it was like in week 3, and I was furious at the Ravens in week 1 last year. In week 1, Isaiah Likely has that massive 20% of the season production. And I'm saying to myself, your season's over if you're going to go to Isaiah Likely. And people are like, what are you, nuts? He's our waiver wire wonder. I go, you don't understand. The Ravens have a cheat code here. They got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And if they don't get Patrick Ricard's butt on the field and they don't get him in as an extra blocker, they are going to waste Derrick Henry. And it was, I know and I never read it, but I know in my heart that after week 2, John Harbaugh went up to Todd Monken, grabbed him by the shirt, and he said, get Likely off the field, get Ricard on the field. Because that's what they did. And then it started to get better. But then here was like the crowning thing. In week 11 or 10, Lamar Jackson, apparently Derrick Henry had never run out of the shot as a shotgun running back before. They had to get him ready for that. Week 10 or 11, that's when they launched it. And at that point, Henry was like 143 yards a game. Why? Because you had Lamar Jackson in the shotgun and you had Henry. And we saw it with the Steelers. There was a game they just ran at Henry, and Lamar was like, okay, I'm going to pocket the ball and run 30 yards on you. And so you had no answer. Against the smaller defenses, you're going to have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. They are going to be even better this year. You're going to see that last 5 or 6 week version of them all year long. Henry's the poster child for this. And he only plays, 52% of the snaps?
Yeah,
that's all he needs.
Exactly that. And I think people need to think about the running back position differently. That you don't always need to chase the guy that's on the field 82% of the time. You actually need to fight. It's actually a good thing if the team that you've got a talented RB on, they bring in a back to do the dirty work in between the 20s. That's a good thing. We've been saying it for years. Like, don't be scared of additional competition. It's good. You've got the dirty guy who's going to do the dirty stuff between the 20s, and then all of a sudden you've got your home record who's going to bring it in when the defenses are tired. They're going to hit late. They're going to have those garbage time points, but it's all schemed by design. It's not fluke. It's just, this is how the NFL works now, and they're all about trying to pivot and find edges. And you would rather have Derrick Henry run at tired offenses or tired defenses in the 3rd and 4th quarter if they're still in the game than have him blow it out right in the beginning of the game. So, yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And there was some injuries at the RB position. I don't think there was as many as the year before, and I did write about this. It definitely significantly did decrease in 2024, but there was significantly more injuries into key players at the wide receiver position, which caused this plateau where if you take Jamar Chase out, because he's like in his own little world last year, where he's blown everyone apart, the rest are kind of plateaued. If you invested in any wide receiver, unless their name was Brian Thomas Jr., you probably didn't do quite that well. And Malik Neighbors, maybe, you didn't do quite that well on your investment, because these guys, they might have finished high up, but they didn't give you the separation that you're paying for that premium, which is a lot of those guys that took wide receiver in round 1. Unless they took Jamar Chase, they paid for it last year big time. Right.
Now, I just want to take a minute to talk about Brian Thomas Jr., and I know he's obviously going as a first-round pick this year. I'll tell you what, and everybody needs to listen to this. Everybody wants to make this case. He broke out in the second half of the season. No, he didn't have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence played 11 games with Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. averaged 13 PPR points and 5.7 targets a game. He was not very good. He had 3 games under 6 PPR points. Yeah. Mac Jones comes in. Now, Mac Jones had nothing to lose. Mac Jones like, all right, well, I'm just going to chuck it away.
Well, he's playing
all
for
of
a job.
A sudden, what's that?
He's playing for a job. He's
playing for a job. All of a sudden, instead of that 5.7 targets a game that Thomas is getting, Mac Jones, it's 10 to 14 targets a game. That 13 PPR points a game Brian Thomas was getting with Mac Jones, 22.9, a 10-point per game PPR bump. Those 5.7 targets became 11.7. So Brian Thomas, when I watched the film, He was no different with Trevor Lawrence than he was with Mac Jones, except for the fact that Mac Jones said, I'm getting you the ball. Trevor Lawrence is a horrible decision maker. And that the more you watch him, the more you see that. And big concerns about Trevor Lawrence. And sure, Liam Cohen's going to run the offense through Brian Thomas Jr. You don't think they plan on doing that last year? Trevor Lawrence, as soon as he doesn't like the look, he freaks out and he goes somewhere else with the ball. So we could say all day long, well, Brian Thomas is going to be what he was in the last 6 games. You got to trust Trevor Lawrence for that to happen. And not that Mac Jones is a good quarterback, but Mac Jones he had nothing to lose. Trevor Lawrence is going to think too much. So I'm not saying Brian Thomas is going to be a bust this year.
No.
But I think I'm saying this, that production we saw at Mac Jones, you're not getting that this year. You're getting 80% of that.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about this. I'm glad you brought it up because I am in two minds about this because I do agree. I think if you're looking at all things being the same, then I would agree. I think there are 2 things in Brian Thomas Jr.'s favor this year that I am not bullish enough to take him in the first 2 rounds. But I think round 3, he won't be, but if he was there, I have him like in that 12 to 15 range.
Exactly.
I think that to me is where I feel like I can punch Brian Thomas Jr.'s case and ticket. And I can get there because of 2 things. One, Travis Hunter on the other side. He's going to draw some coverage. He's definitely going to make it easier for Brian Thomas to get more targets and get better looks. 2, Cohen is going to make that offense so much better. He's going to give Trevor Lawrence confidence. He's going to get more protection in there. He's going to give him time to make the throws. He's going to take a lot of the decision-making process away from Trevor Lawrence. He's looked at the tape. He knows Liam Cohen is a phenomenal offensive genius in terms of what he can do to score points. He knows how to get points scored in this league. He knows how to bring in extra bodies, how to confuse defenses. He knows how to give his quarterback, more importantly, time. Trevor Lawrence is going to get sacked. He's going to get sacked a fair lot this bit, but he is also going to build on that confidence because Liam Cohen will give him time in the pocket he's never had before. And that will happen, and that will give him time and confidence. And I think when he gets there, you'll see more. Again, I'm not bullish on Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to break into like top 8 fantasy quarterback. But if someone said to me that with Liam Cohen, he could finish as the QB 11, 12, I could get on board with that. Like, I think that's in a realm of outcomes that I can get behind. I'm not saying I definitely back it, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. will benefit from those 2 factors simultaneously. But it will be, but you're right, it's not a done deal. And if you're looking at his production last year, that's the wrong way to look at it. You need to look at what's gone in his direction this year.
For discussion's sake, and I love Liam Cohen. I loved him last year. I was all in on Chris Godwin, and I loved the offense. But remember, that Tampa Bay offensive line had an outstanding set of tackles. The interior was good. Jacksonville doesn't have anything in that stratosphere of that line. So, and don't think for a minute that teams aren't going to blitz Trevor Lawrence. And don't think for a minute they're going to try to take the first read away. And they're going to expect that first read's Brian Thomas. They're going to try to force the read to go to a second read because the book's out on Trevor Lawrence. So one other point on Travis Hunter. In my mind, he will eventually be a superstar. Yeah. When you watch film on him, he still moves like a cornerback. But because he was in college, he could get away with that because he was so much more talented than the kids that were playing against him. He doesn't have the talent advantage to that level in the NFL, and he doesn't have the footwork yet. He doesn't know how to stack the steps together. He is a work in progress for the NFL. He'll be a superstar. I don't think he's anything close to that as a rookie. He has a developmental curve. You can't just come in and be all talent. He's not like Calvin Johnson talent where it wouldn't even matter, but he will get there. Murph, as a rookie, I'm very hesitant to think that learning curve isn't going to be steep.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to now make the counter argument on why I think the Jags will be better on the offensive line. They actually did address the interior. They got Contrarian. They got Robert Hainsey. Robert Hainsey is a sneakily good sort of interior center guy. You can kind of move him around anywhere in the interior. He can play the 3 positions. Are these guys superstars? No, but they're pretty solid. And then you bring in someone like Johnny Munt, you're going to bring in to be that big blocking tight end. I think Cohen has looked at this. He's seen what he needs to do in free agency. He's picked up guys that are going to give that protection. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than it was a year ago? Yeah, I think it is. I think I look at Hainsey, I look at Munt, even Hunter Long can do a bit of blocking tight end. Like, there's enough there to say that they understood that there's a problem and that they're trying to address it. It will take, but then what I will say is it will take time. Those guys in the interior will need to get up to speed fairly quickly. Hainsey's played one pro scheme. So, Buddy played Liam Cohen's pro scheme. So that will help because at least he knows what to walk. Like, if you're talking about a dream fit, it kind of fits nicely as a fit there. And again, Makari's a veteran. He's been in a load of schemes. It won't take him long to get up to speed. I think they've done quite well to patch it. And I don't think it's perfect. Far from it. No. But I do think there is going to be enough protection there. I think I'm going to look at Harry's asked here. He's hoping that Cohen can fix him. I think Cohen is going to give him the best opportunity to succeed. Mm-hmm. It's whether or not we believe that he's going to get there. That's two different points. I think I am more of the belief that Liam Cohen will give him the opportunity to succeed. Whether or not I believe that T-Law is going to get there is a different argument. But then I said the same about Baker, and Baker has come on. So I think he's going to have the platform. He'll have no excuses after 2 years with him.
We gave Baker Mayfield a raw deal. And I said it before last season. As a rookie, he was great. Yeah. And then the second year, Freddie Kitchens was out of his water. And all of a sudden, he couldn't coach. And so Baker Mayfield's in a bad spot. Year 3, they changed the coach. Baker Mayfield was great in year 3. And then year 4, remember? In year 4, he played with 2 bum shoulders. But he didn't miss a game. And we crucified him for that. Mm-hmm. He couldn't throw the ball. He was injured. And then that was that next year where he went between, was it Carolina and the Rams, journeyman. So the first time he got another crack with Tampa the year after that, 26 touchdowns, I believe, top of my head. It was a good season. I contend that Baker Mayfield is always been a good quarterback when he hasn't had catastrophic coaching in the second year of Kitchens or 2 torn up shoulders. Other than that, he's always been good.
He is on to his 7th. He's on to his 7th offensive coordinator. Right. The poor guy. Every year he's been in Tampa, he's got a different offensive coordinator because he's made the guy look so good. He's got him a job as a head coach.
Right.
He made Dave Canellas look great, and Dave Canellas got a job as a head coach, and he's done nothing with Bryce Young to suggest that he's a quarterback whisperer. Now he's got Liam Cohen a job. Now we get to see Josh Grizzard come in. I say come in. He knows him. Like, they played like we're going to see the same thing, right? Yeah. So it's fine. It's interesting that, I agree. And I think that this is why we want to get to the coaching stuff, because it is important. It's that context that you don't really understand, that when you get coaching changes as frequently, some players really struggle with that because it's a whole new book. It's a whole new way of playing that you can't, it's like, I tried to liken this to someone. It's like going to learn a language, and then the very next year you have to learn an entire new language. So, like, you've gone and just mastered French, and now you've got to go and learn Mandarin. And it's not just you learn it and then you execute. You've got to do the both at the same time. You've got to learn, execute, learn, execute, learn, execute. And then it's like, great, I just got comfortable with Mandarin. Nope. Now we're going to put Portuguese on you. Like, it's just like, and that's how we got to look. But it's interesting to see what happens. Harry's a Brown fan. He's got an alternative reality where Baker sat with a tornado and is still with the Browns plus all that money and all those draft picks. But Jimmy Haslam's an idiot.
Enough said.
Like, I just don't believe it would have worked out because Jimmy Haslam's an idiot. I think we've covered off. I mean, I put here in terms of the one thing I'll touch on, then we'll get into the coaching changes because I'm conscious how far we got in, is we talked last year that the rookies were undervalued. So the rookies were undervalued and they all popped off. And so last year, I get this wrong. Rookies were overvalued and they didn't pop. And so as a result, we overcorrected And we only had one rookie go in the top 48 picks last year, which was Marvin Harrison Jr., who we both agreed was well overpriced. I remember that. And then you had Thomas and Neighbors, and all these guys were going round 5, round 6, round 7, and later, who turned out to be really good value. So I think there was this overcorrection of rookies didn't perform in 2023, and then all of a sudden they did sort of bounce back in 2024. Do we think that there's going to be that case this year, that this incoming class, we should be a little bit more bullish on some of the rookies across all the positions, or should we be as cautious as we were last year?
You know, it's going to be situational this year, Murph. I mean, first of all, like I said about Travis Hunter, he's going to be great, but he moves like a corner. He has to learn how to be a receiver at the NFL level. So I think this year he's not going to have that massive year. And then you have Ted McMillan. He has Bryce Young. Well, good luck with that. He averaged about 200 yards a game in the last 4 games last year. He ran for fantasy points. So if you remember him as a fantasy asset, yeah, because he ran. It wasn't because he was throwing and lighting up. They had one game against the Falcons where I think it shot out, but that was it. And so Ted McMillan has that around him. And, you know, Adam Thielen's still getting targets, and Leggett probably still gets some. And then you go over to Emeka Egbuka. Well, yeah, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there have fantastic rapport with Baker. So as to how many targets he really gets, good luck with that. So I think it's going to situationally, it's hard to bet on this year's rookie class of receivers to be insane producers.
Yeah, but there is more running backs this year, because last year there weren't any. You know, the only running back that really was significant was Bucky Irving, and he didn't get drafted in most leagues.
Nope.
So, you know, it is better this year because of Gene T, because of Hampton, because there's a few other guys as well underneath Henderson. There's a few guys to watch, especially some of those later round running backs. And, you know, the Jags are always one to look at in this situation because of what Liam Cohen did. Great. We're going to move on to 2025. We're going to look at these coaching changes, and I'm just going to focus on, I don't care about the defensive head coaches because it doesn't affect fantasy. They get an offensive coordinator. They do it all right. So we're going to focus on the head coaches that were appointed that are offensive. And there were 4 of them. It was Ben Johnson, who went to the Bears, Liam Cohen, who has already been pretty well talked about on this show, Kellen Moore, appointed by the Saints last minute, and Brian Schottenheimer in a appointment that really wowed absolutely no one. But here we are. So these were the 4 sort of offensive coaches that were appointed to head coach. Ben Johnson got all the headlines. Liam Cohen got a fair bit as well, more because of the fact he told the Bucs he was staying, and then he left, and then there was the whole saying his kids were sick and whatever. The truth will come out one day. And then Kellen Moore coming off a Super Bowl. So you got 3 very talented guys who are all becoming head coaches for the first time in the NFL. Of course, Liam Cohen does have head coaching experience in college, but now he gets to bring it in into the NFL. And then Brian Schottenheimer, again, first time head coach. So what are we thinking of these guys and what we're expecting them to do for offenses? And do we have any faith in terms of wanting to grab a lot of assets from any of these coaches?
I like how you pointed out that Ben Johnson makes the move from coordinator to head coach because there's a lot more responsibility there. Mm-hmm. There is certain, it's not the same job, but the beauty of what the Bears did was they basically must have had Johnson involved in the player gathering process, because it was almost like the chef got to put together all the ingredients for the meal. You get Joe Tooney at left guard, center Drew Dahlman from Atlanta and free agent, who did a lot of zone blocking, which is what we know they want to do with Ben Johnson. And then Jonah Jackson, who's often injured, the right guard. He obviously knows the system for having played. So that Bears interior line that last year wasn't just bad, but they weren't coached to stop a simulated pressure. Well, that shouldn't happen this year. The tackles, I think, for the Bears are good enough. And so you start there, and then you bring in Colston Loveland, who could be the movable chess piece, way different than Sam Laporta, more of a big-time weapon. Maybe now he's not better, but he's more of a weapon. And then, of course, Rome Odunze now has the path clear with Keenan Allen gone to become the star we thought he would be last year. DJ Moore has always been a superstar, but it's always been a situation around him that's been problematic. So all that said, the Bears won't have a great running game. DeAndre Swift will get what's blocked for the most part, but this team should be able to pass the ball very effectively. And we expect that Ben Johnson, who was able to really mask all the weaknesses of Jared Goff, he should be able to really lift Caleb Williams. This should be a very powerful offense.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it looks phenomenal. And then you add Luther Burden into the mix, who is a very talented receiver who people really didn't know what to do with after his senior year was less than stellar. I think it's an interesting scenario where I almost think that Ben Johnson has got too many embarrassment of riches, and it's going to be how he manages to keep everyone on side, because I can see a guy like Burden go, I'm not happy. I'm third choice, and I'm not getting the. He's fourth read in that offense, fifth fourth at best,
right?
Behind Loveland and Dunze and DJ Moore. So it's a really interesting spot that he's in. Like, in terms of how does he handle that? There were question marks on how he would handle adversity. This is going to be a big challenge for him, and how you manage that. DeAndre Swift, always a perennial question mark in the NFL, that he never feels like he's ever lived up to the potential of what he could be. He will have an opportunity again. Do we think I wouldn't surprise me if one of these aging veteran running backs that is still out there unsigned could sign here for a few games and maybe just be a foil to Swift. I don't think that it wouldn't surprise me if they add someone late in the preseason. For sure. And
Murph,
then,
can I give you a quick word on Burden? So last year in Detroit, we saw Brock Wright, the tight end, playing 49% of the snaps. Well, the Bears have Cole Kmet, and he's a very good blocker, very good. If they need him as a receiver, they really don't. I expect Cole Kmet to be on the field half the time, and Luther Burden is the number 3 receiver. Well, the number 3 receiver in Detroit was playing 55% of the time. That's an extremely low number. Luther Burden is not going to walk into this role. He's going to, so like you said, he is going to have adversity, because Cole Kmet, he is not getting pushed to the side. He'll be a blocker more, but they paid him, and he is a very good football player. So yeah, Luther Burden, that's going to be problematic. If people are investing him in fantasy, be careful, because he may not be in the field that much.
Yeah, I think he's a slow burn. The way I would put him is, you see what happens with DJ Moore, and if he gets moved on, which could happen, especially if Roman Dunze shines the way that a number of people expect, that could put DJ Moore out of joint, and maybe he wants to go and find a new challenge. There might be a pathway there. But yeah, I think Ben Johnson and the Bears seem to gather the most interest. I think for me, the problem that I have with the Bears is because of that embarrassment of riches, it's hard to see who is going to be elite for fantasy. It's hard to see a pathway of any of these guys other than Loveland being top 18 at wide receiver, and Swift being a top 15 running back. I almost don't want to invest in the Bears, because I just feel like you're never going to get the price, because everyone's all in on the Bears, that I feel like unless they pivot and Roman Dunze becomes Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it could happen, I don't see a pathway to. I think they'll all eat. I think they'll all be nice, steady contributors on your team, but they'll be far too priced for what they'll give you. Do you think differently?
I do. DJ Moore has always been an elite superstar, but he has had no quarterbacks his entire career. He had 1,100-yard season, 1,300-yard season with Justin Fields. He is an elite of the elite. If he had been if he had Joe Burrow, if he had Kirk Cousins back in the day, we would have seen 1,500-yard seasons right and left from him. And there's no way that we're going to see Ben Johnson walk in and say, and I know they're having their little bit of spats about his attitude and this and that. Once he sees that talent, there's no way he can't scheme the ball to him. Remember, DJ Moore was the wide receiver 6 with Justin Fields. Last year was a train wreck, and he was the wide receiver 14. Amon-Ra St. Brown was wonderful with Ben Johnson. DJ Moore is exponentially better in every single way than St. Brown. Anything that St. Brown could do, DJ Moore is twice the player, no matter what category it is, whether it's breaking tackles, whether it's separation, whether it's downfield. This cat can play football. And I'd be stunned if Ben Johnson says, all right, we're just going to shelve you. It's not going to help Ben Johnson get to where he wants to be.
All right, I'm going to set a line here. You tell me over or under. Over or under 1,100 yards receiving for DJ Moore.
I have him at 1,250, which is 100 less than he had with Justin Fields, and that was 5 games of Tyson Bagent too.
Okay, I'm taking the under there. I agree with all your points. I just don't know how Ben Johnson is going to keep everyone happy. So I have DJ Moore in that sort of wide receiver 17, 18, in that sort of like over 1,000, less than 1,100 kind of range. That's kind of where I think. And again, I always dink them a game and a half for injuries, sitting out, things like that. So
yeah, he hasn't missed a game in like 5 years, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's like that. And I think last year, remember all those screen passes, he had less than 1,000 yards. But I'm looking at his career. I don't think he's been under 1,100 yards since his rookie season. 1,175, 1,193, 1,157 at Carolina. He had no quarterback play. 1,360 forward fields, and then the 2022, 2022 at Carolina, that was the last year there. But he's had 4 years of at least 1,157 yards. And last year, again, it wasn't for lack of targets. It was just horrible offensive play design.
Yeah.
So his career has been, it would be almost an insane disappointment if he didn't hit 1,150, because that's been worst case scenario in most of his career.
There we go. I look forward to seeing that happening one way or the other. I feel like we've done the Jags. We kind of, one thing I will just say on the Jags is they will run the ball relatively well. I think that they'll run the ball a lot better than they have done. I think they're going to run the wheels off ETN. He's not back next year. Cohen's not going down a 1-year deal. I think ETN is going to eat. I think he's going to have plenty of workload, but I do expect them to flip to the rookie at some point through the season. Maybe they'll both eat. I think they're going to do well. Do I think they're both superstars? No. Do I want to buy ETN? No. But I think ETN in redraft is a player to watch because his ADP continues to fall and he's a value. And I think he will knock it out the park first half of the season at least, because I think they will run the train off him. I think they'll literally go, he's the starter, and I think they'll run the ball really, really well. So, yeah, I'm keen on your thoughts of that running game. Would you be buying in on both the running backs there if you can at their price?
So Travis Etienne was 16th percentile in broken tackle rate last year, 34th percentile in yards after contact. Those are things that are system agnostic. Those are things that the running back does on his own. It was a horrific year from that standpoint that led up to 3.7 yards per carry. Even as a receiver, his yards after the catch, I don't have that number right with me, but that number after the catch, it was the lowest it had ever been. So if he can somehow figure it back out, because he was good 3 years ago, and then he got a ton of volume the year after that. So you could be certainly right that there's a range of outcomes where maybe it was a mental thing and he got upset with a situation and just didn't perform.
I think it was the hamstring. So
you think so?
Yeah, he had repeated hamstring strains.
Well, that would be it then. And that would be it.
So I think he was dinged up. I think he played hurt. I went to the London game he played in. He didn't look good at all.
Okay.
And I think
that.
And I think that, I'm not putting all the eggs in that basket there, but I definitely think his, I think from early October onwards, he was week to week with hamstring injuries. I think he missed the game before the bye. I think he came back after the bye. He was a bit dinged up. I think he just carried a hamstring injury, and I don't think it cleared up. And I think by the time it got better, I think there was nothing to play for, and I think he just thought, I'll just phone it in and be done. So I think it'd be interesting to see what he's like in preseason. That will be where
makes sense.
What he does in preseason will determine where I think he is, but I don't know if we'll get elite Travis Etienne from 3 years ago, but I do think we'll get an improved version from last year. The missed tackle rate went down significantly. I don't necessarily. I'm one of these that the yards per carry only worries me when there isn't volume. So, Rashad White's a great example of this, right? Rashad White is a consistent top 15, top 18 fantasy back. We could talk about whether that's going to happen this year with the talent behind him, but he has consistently been that whilst failing to ever break 4 yards per carry because he's had the volume. And I think that he will get to where he needs to get to with the receiving and everything else. And I think ETN will do the same. I'm less concerned because he will be supported by volume. That will stop him from being elite. It will stop him from being a top 8, top 10 running back. But you're not drafting him as a top 8, top 10 running back. You're drafting him as, what's he going now? Running back
39.
Right. Like, for me, he's free. Like,
he is. That's free.
He will massively outperform running back 39. It's just whether it's sustainable for a season. But I think wherever you take him, I think you'll get at least 5 good weeks of production out of him, which I think might be all you need. So,
and I see the path. I mean, I do. I'm conflicted on him. I'm very conflicted. I see the upside, and then like I said, if it's a hamstring and that ends up being the reason, then I get it. But yeah, so I see both cases, and I really at that ADP, that's going to be one where you get some shares. I mean, in 2023, again, I know the coaching was bad. He had 3.8 yards per carry in that year, and like you said, yards per carry are yards per carry, and the line was bad. So there's a lot of reasons we could cut him slack. So I think you're right about looking at the training camp to see what kind of explosives he has, because you'll hear him talk about it. Somebody will talk about whether he looks like a different player, and that won't be camp talk. If that talk comes out, then we'd say, okay, then the hamstring is enough to believe that was the issue.
Yeah. We'll know by mid-August where we're going, but I think at the price, I'm willing to leverage it in a few leagues because I just think it's so low rate that you might as well take a few flyers on it. Let's quickly pivot to Kellen Moore because I'm conscious of time. It's an interesting one. Derek Carr is retired. Looks like they're going to go with Tyler Shook. Schematically with Kellen Moore, that makes sense. And I'm failing to understand the people that believe that Spencer Rattler is going to get a shot in this offense because he does not fit a Kellen Moore scheme at all. Like it's not. Tyler Shook, they drafted him knowing he was going to be the starter. Like this was planned. Now he didn't throw the ball 1,000 times in his 38 years in college or however long. Like the only guy ever to pension off from college. Like you got to remember he was in the same freshman class as Trevor Lawrence.
Right, he'll be 26 like in week 3.
We're going all the way back to Chris Winkie and like
he was like 28, right? Yeah, same deal. Love that. Oh man.
So what do we think of this Kellen Moore offense? Because last year we talked about this offense with Kubiak, and we thought that this was going to be different, and it wasn't. It was the same offense, effectively, that we'd seen. Just they decided that it was so bad they'll just take some cheap shots down the field with Rashid Shaheed, and then when he got injured, they got MBS to do the exact same thing.
Right.
What do we think of this offense? Because we've got some real concerns because you've got Chris Olave in the concussions, but they didn't go for another receiver at a significant price. That depth chart is
not good.
Not good. I'm starting to think that at 40 and I can probably get on as a walk-on maybe with no speed and let's have a go. Pay to see it. You've got no real, everyone's talking about Kendra Miller, and is he going to come on this year despite the fact he never has? Is Alvin Kamara finally going to be put out to pasture? I don't see it. Like, what's your take on this improbably bad offense?
Yeah, Kubiak is going to be hamstrung by personnel. How do you play a 3-receiver set when your third receiver is a washed-up Brandon Cooks or Bub Means or Kevin Austin? You can't run 3-receiver sets until you're in 3rd and long or in predictable passing situation. You don't have the talent. So you have to lean in, pray that Olave and Shaheed stay healthy, Juwan Johnson and Foster Morrow on the field at tight end. You have to run 12 personnel. You got to put 2 tight ends out there. Your personnel dictates that. You can't. You have a better offense with Juwan Johnson than with Brandon Cooks or Bub Means out there. And they've never used Juwan Johnson enough. And that's always been a mistake of theirs. He's a converted wide receiver, 500 yards a season most of the time, but they never really give him targets. He may have to get targets this year. They're going to trail. That defense has got old. They've lost people over the years. This is the year. It's catching up this year. This defense is going to be really bad, and they're going to have to throw a lot more than they want. Alvin Kamara as many receptions as he can get until the wheels fall off. They signed Cam Akers last week. And honestly, but funny you laugh, since 2 Achilles injuries, his broken tackle rate and yards after contact and limited play with Minnesota, he looked good with Minnesota last year. I mean, this guy, I don't get it, but 2 Achilles, and the dude is playing reasonably well. I think he will be a nice change of pace for them because Kendra Miller, as you're intimating, he ain't the answer. They drafted Devin Neal, but the fact they brought in Akers on top of that tells me they didn't really like what they saw in Devin Neal in the early looks. So Akers is going to be like, ADP will settle on him. It'll be running back 65 probably. But I'm taking that flyer because Kamara's missed time 4 straight years, 2 to 4 games, but he's getting older, right?
Yeah, some of that is suspensions though, and things.
Oh, one of them was, one of them was.
But yeah, it's definitely one that we'll see what happens with him. But I look at RB20, I'm buying all the Alvin Kamara I can buy because there's no one in that offense that's touching him. And as you say, with this defense, you've got Cam Jordan, he's going to be 36. Yeah. You got Demario Davis, he's going to turn 36, 37.
Right.
You got Tyrion Matthew, he's going to be of a similar age. Like, you have a lot of old dudes on this team. And then, and then Brandon Cooks is on this team. I mean, he's slated to start. Like, I always forget that. He's going to be 32. I mean, there's a lot of old dudes. Taysom Hill, he's not a young buck. He's still knocking around. He's
ACL last year, too.
Yeah, he's going to be 35. So, this is like a sneaky. And, like, these cap situations they've got themselves in, it's so funny that it's so bad. So, I actually think now I look at Olave and I'm, you got the concussion thing, but he's priced so low. He's like wide receiver 30 at the moment. Like, I'm just buying in. Like, who's competing with Chris Olave for targets if he's on the field? Nobody. Like, literally no one.
And
like the Nacho guy is probably going to get
right in the games in his career when Chris Olave's seen 6 or more targets. Almost every time he has 81 or more yards. When he gets targets, he produces. And I'm ticked at Derek Carr. Both of those concussions were Derek Carr's fault. He
100%.
led Olave into the hit both times. That was Jimmy Garoppolo stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not acceptable. That is not professional quarterback play. And I don't know if Tyler Shuck is any better, but most quarterbacks are good enough to not lead your receiver into injury. So bye-bye, Derek Carr. I'm not going to miss you because Chris Olave doesn't deserve another concussion at your hand.
No, Tyler Shook is going to be really interesting because for 26, he's as inexperienced as like less than 1,000 yards in passing. Like the guy's a walking sick note. The guy played 41% of the available games in college that he was available to suit up for. Yeah, like we're talking about now. It could have all radically got fixed, but like Cam Akers, maybe the Saints is this sneaky get healthy tour. They get all the guys that literally have like the walking wounded, and they've got some like fountain of youth where all these guys are going to drink from and rehabilitate all their careers. I don't know, right? Conscious of time, we're not going to go through all the coordinators because it's like a third of the league hired a new offensive coordinator this year, which stunned me when I thought it was about 8. I didn't realize it was quite as many as it was. Are there any offensive coordinators? The standout one, a little bit from an intrigue perspective, is Chip Kelly at the Raiders. But is there any sort of offenses from these new offensive coordinators we're buying into and ones we're avoiding, and why?
So this is a tough one because a lot of these guys don't have what I call real play calling experience.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are going to try to roll something. Chip Kelly, the big joke with him is, I get it that first year in Philly, he ran that breakneck speed and the league didn't catch up for a while. But then as soon as the league caught up, he's that typical college coach. His guys in college were always better than the opponents. They can use the same plays calls every week, and you can't stop them. Then you go to the NFL, and all of a sudden they're game planning. And Chip Kelly, you got bounced out of Philly quick. He had that 1 year in San Francisco, bounced quickly there. So I don't think he is an NFL caliber coach. And fortunately, he's got a veteran quarterback at Geno Smith. He's got a running back. So I think this offense their defense will be bad. So I think they'll be functional, but I don't think Chip Kelly is going to make any great breakout difference. Remember, this team lacks a vertical element in the passing game. So defense are just going to kind of pack things down. You got Brock Bowers, you got Jacoby Myers, even Jack Besh. It's all underneath stuff. And that's going to be really hard to open up a defense.
I'm going to put out this PSA that I think Jack Besh is one of the most he's going to be one of the most overdrafted assets in Dynasty and redraft this year. I am severely concerned because from what I've looked at in OTAs, he ain't on the field.
He can't separate.
No, he can't separate. He's not on the field. It's going to be a lot of Myers and Tucker. That seems to be rolling with Bowers. Even Mayer's getting more looks. Like Jack Beck is not a guy. Like if you take nothing away from this show, don't invest in Jack. Not this year, because I don't see the pathway here in this year. And it's one that when I did my projections, I was a little bit more bullish on than I am now. That I need to revise that because I've looked at the OTAs tapes and he's nowhere to be seen. He is on the sideline. So get gone from him. So I think they're an interesting team to watch. Are there any others you want to sort of invest in? I'm a bit intrigued by Nick Caley at the Texans, given that there is some experience there as a tight ends coach. That offense was historically bad for the weapons that they've got. They can't be that bad again. I'm intrigued to see what they do. You got any thoughts on? I know there's not a lot of play calling experience, but they surely can't run with what they did last year.
So basically, we saw CJ Stroud as Superman as a rookie. Why? They ran fullbacks on the field. They did the 49ers type offense, and defense had to drop a safety, and the average depth of target was deep, just like it was for the Miami, the San Francisco, the old school Ravens. That worked, and they crushed. And then all of a sudden last year, they fired all their fullbacks, and they went with 3 receiver sets, and the whole league dropped the shell deep, and CJ Stroud, all of a sudden, he was exposed. So I think they just basically made him struggle. Well, here's the deal. CJ Stroud is a very good quarterback, but last year the league adjusted to him and he had no coaching help. I think CJ Stroud is talented enough. He gets to make his adjustment back to the league this year. Look, the coach doesn't have any serious experience, so I put no stock in Nick Caley, but I do put stock in the talent that I believe CJ Stroud has. And I guess I said a moment ago, I believe he makes his adjustment to the league. I like Christian Kirk coming in for 1 year. The 2 rookies they added are going to add some depth. Nico Collins, when he's on the field, there are weapons. Now the offensive line's not very good, but they're going to put an extra tight end on the field when they can. But if not, they're going to get the ball out quick. And they're going to have to. CJ Stroud's going to do this. And CJ Stroud ran in both playoff games, 42 yards in each game. That's an element of his game. I think he'd be uncovered. So I think that it's going to be CJ Stroud lifting the offense back more than Nick Caley does.
I agree. I think the other reason I've got some intrigue on Nick Caley is his pedigree and where he's come from. Yes, he's not got a lot of experience in play calling, but he has a very, very long resume, like a really long resume for a guy getting his first shot at 42. I think he is. Like, he's been around a long time and he's been part of a successful Patriots organization. He got to be around Tom Brady. He got to be around Josh McDaniels. He then has gone to the Rams. He's been around Sean McVay. He's been around a lot of very successful, either done a year with Liam Cohen. This is turning into a Liam Cohen fan cast, and it shouldn't be. But he's been around a lot of very good play callers. And I just think that there's got to be something, like, to have stuck around this long and to have been in the teams and franchises he has been in, he must have absorbed something. So it'd be interesting to see what he puts out there. But I guess why I've got a little bit of faith in him is where he's come from in his pedigree, because he's been around some amazing coaches. And I'm sure he's going to have the ability to amalgamate and put some things together. So
just remember, Murph, the simulated pressures weren't like a thing for most of his coaching career. That's like a last 2 years thing. So it's all about you being smarter than the defensive coaches that are adjusting to you. So you might be right. And I'm not going to look, I don't know Nick Haley enough to say he is going to fail.
I don't think anyone does.
No, but my point is the simulated pressures now in that bad offensive line, it's going to be CJ Stroud making plays. I don't know that Nick Haley has the relevant current experience to overcome it. Because look, there's a lot of coaches that aren't like the A-list coaches. That's a big problem because those pressures are coming out of nowhere now. People are learning from the Mike McDonalds of the world, and they are sending, a player from the offside that isn't even looking like he's coming. And so that really gums up an offense. So again, maybe you're going to be right on that one, but
it's going to be hard to see. But I think I just, for me, I always look at situations. I look at where they've been. I look at where they've had opportunities to learn. And he's been around a lot of really good football guys. Sure. And I think there's something in that he's been around a long time. It's not like he's been in one pond. He did a year here, did a year there, a year somewhere else, worked at a Chuck E. Cheese for a little bit. Like he has continuity for me, which I think is important. And I think, I don't think the Texans can be that bad again. Yes, they've got severe offensive line challenges that I don't know how they're going to overcome. But I look at the weapons and what they've got available to them, and I just think there's got to be. I mean, I think CJ Stroud is the QB 21 in ADP, which I think is nuts. I look at all of the offensive weapons available to them, and other than Nico Collins, they're all significantly undervalued.
Right.
And I think that I'm looking at the Texans as an offense to buy into, not because I think they're going to be exceptional or back to where they were 2 years ago, but I think the discount you're getting on them makes them just, it just makes to the point where it's like, I might as well. And I think, and I want to get your point, and this is where we're end, is I've noticed over the last 3 years, right, with the growth of fantasy football, Twitter and X, whatever we want to call it, right, this need for consensus and this need for groupthink, and everybody kind of thinks the same and looks the same and wants to draft the same and has to get their takes validated. And, it's very difficult to have a discussion like we have done where we might disagree, but do it in a way where we can see both sides to learn from. You go on a hill, you die on that hill, and you will never leave in it. And you find other people to come and join you on your hill. And it's very much like that. Do you think that with the way that this sort of consensus-y groupthink strategy is kind of outplayed, where people have that need for their takes to be validated, or their reasoning, or their draft picks, or this need to show, hey, I did this mock draft. What do you think? Do you think that was any good? That there is a, dare I say it, a contrarian view that actually, by going against the grain of the groupthink, the value is there to win leagues, because you've got this ability to go against the grain and you can effectively devise your own path to victory, because everyone's swimming in one direction. You know which way everyone's going to swim. You just get to go round or through, whichever. I'm keen on your thought on that, because I've noticed it more and more, and I feel like more of my success comes from going, well, if you're all going that way, I'm going a different way, because there's less
Murph,
this competition to the top.
This is a lesson in humanity. I love human beings, but if you bet against human beings, you're right 80% of the time, because human beings are chronically doing the wrong thing. Any type of, other than eating food and breathing air, human beings do the wrong thing all the time. So so bet against humanity and you'll win. Vegas, how do you think Vegas is built? Going against the grain. Everybody thinks they know better. Well, they don't. Vegas got built. So I'm with you. And look, you're a very smart analyst. You study it. You have a rational, reasoned take. I have a rational, reasoned take. I'm not looking for confirmation. I give you my opinion. I tell you why. If you don't like the why, don't agree with me. If you like the why, then buy it. And it's the same with you. And that's different than the pool. And everybody's like, data, data, data. And numbers, great. Numbers have a great place. And I study the numbers. But this is a game of football played by human beings that are very much variables. And we do it differently than a lot of people. We're not numbers. Trade the numbers in and blend them with football knowledge. And I just think it's a different approach. And that's contrarian. So my takes are going to be different because it's not just the numbers only. And I think you see it the same way.
And that's why I love your content. Because again, there are some things you'll say that I don't agree with, but what I learn from is how you've got to there.
Yeah.
Because that's where I learn is the process of where you get there. And you might not agree with the outcome, but I go, I agree with that step, and I agree with that step, and I agree with that. And I think that makes sense. I just think the end variable's a little different. I view it in a different lens. And I think that makes sense. That makes you better as a player because you can see the methodology and way people come together with their opinions and how they view the world. And you think, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then you come up with your own secret sauce. And I think that's what makes fantasy fun, is when you create your own secret sauce, which is why I love your content, because it's not just pick this player, here's why. It's just you give the methodology, the reasons for your take, in the sense of it's not data, it's looking at football, it's combining all views of it, and you explain how you get there. And again, you might not agree with the end result, but you'll agree with 80% of the process. You think, okay, so if I take that and get that, I'll get this. And you can get a different result from the same calculations. That's absolutely fine, because the last part is variable. It's how you view it. It's your lens. You can take the data, you can take the football, and then you take how you view what are the things that you value to be more important. Some people value yards per carry as the most important metric in a running back. I don't. I think it's important, but I don't think it's the
no.
So I don't hold stock in it, but some people do. That's great. That's kind of what makes the contrarian play. I think that's why I love your content, because it is contrarian. And I think the more contrarian people there are, and the more contrarian people you and it's not contrarian in that negative sense of we're deliberately going against the grain for takes or for clicks or for whatever. It's reasoned analysis. We're going to tell you how we get there, and you might like the process and hate the result, and that's fine. You can tweak the process to get the result you want, or we'll help you see why the lens is different. And then maybe you'll look at the lens different because you've seen how the sausage is made. And I think that's key. And I think my advice to anybody is swim away from the groupthink. If everyone's going wide receiver round one, pivot, go a different direction, build your team differently. It will give you more paths to victory, because you'll have a different way. And also, no one knows where you're going. And that's kind of the best piece. Good. I love that, my man. Why don't you share with everyone where they can consume your content and how they get in touch with you as a must follow? And yeah, just plug anything you're working on right now. Just share it away.
Yeah, on the X at Jim Coventry NFL, daily threads, daily stats of the day. All of my videos on Rotowire Social get funneled through the X, so you can catch all that there. If you want my written content, that's at Rotowire, and that subscription, I can get you 15% off at Rotowire. Any subscription, to use YouTube 15 as your code and get you set up there. But that's pretty much everywhere you can find everything.
And you got the Rotowire guide that'll be coming out, right, as per usual. Exactly. The printed guide that does ship to the UK.
No more printed.
No,
last year, cost and effectiveness, I guess. We got bought by another company. I think that was a decision that wasn't worth it. So I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. There was one of the few that you could get shipped over here. Well, that's fine. It's online. Go buy it online. You should do. It's great. It's got some great contributors, and Jim's in there. Thank you so much, Jim, for joining us. Rush Nation, you called for this episode again. We've delivered it again. Please give Jim some love. Share some tweets or whatever we're calling them now. Elon Musk musings, I guess, is what we'll call them. But share them with him. Definitely subscribe to the content. Don't forget, you can get your fantasy football playbook available either on the Patreon link or via Amazon internationally. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, it ships to there. Please do give that a bit of love, because it was a lot of labor that went into that, and it's definitely a piece that will get you ready for the season. And FFCC signups are still going. We're over 200, so we're crawling nicely to where we need to be. So do sign up for that. Usual places, and donate to the amazing charity, Crohn's Colitis UK. That's going to do it. We're going to bring you another amazing guest next week. Hopefully Stocks will be back for that. But from Jim and I, as always, don't forget, keep rushing.